As a cold wind swept through the cemetery pathway, the moon hid behind clouds. 3 shadowy figures gathered quietly under the cemetery archway. "Have you talked to Elias?" one voice questioned. "No, he's very careful, but he should be with us since Don Crisostomo saved his life," another voice replied. "I joined because Don Crisostomo helped my wife with a doctor in Manila. I'll take care of the convent to settle some old scores with the priest. And we'll handle the barracks to show the civil guards that our father had sons," said the third shadow. "How many of us is it going to be?" one asked. 5 should be enough. "Don Crisostomo's servant thinks there will be 20, came the response. "What if we fail?" another asked. "Shh! Be quiet!" one shadow warned as footsteps approached. Suddenly, a figure slipped down the path cautiously, checking to see if anyone was following. 20 steps behind it came a larger shadow that moved silently, disappearing whenever the first figure paused. Could it be the civil guards? Did the senior sacristan deceive me? The first shadow thought nervously. Finally reaching the cemetery gate, the 3 figures stepped forward to meet the newcomer. "Is that you?" they asked in unison. "We need to scatter. They are on my trail. You'll receive the arms, and tomorrow night we will shout, 'Viva Don Crisostomo! Go!'" The 3 disappeared behind the cemetery walls, while the later arrival hid and waited. He could hear footsteps getting closer. "Who's behind me?" he wondered. The next figure arrived cautiously and paused to look around. "I'm late, but perhaps they will come back," he muttered to himself. A light rain began to fall, and to stay dry, he sheltered under the gateway. He bumped into the hidden figure. "Who are you?" asked the newcomer with a rough voice. "Who are you?" the other replied calmly. After a brief pause, both tried to recognize one another in the dim light. "What are you doing here?" asked the newcomer again. "Just waiting for the clock to strike 8 so I can play cards with the dead. I want to win something tonight," the hidden figure said casually. "And you?" "For the same reason," came the response. "Good. I'm glad I'm not alone. I've brought cards. When the clock strikes, I'll deal them out. The moving cards belong to the dead and we have to cut for them. Do you have any cards?" he asked. "No," the newcomer replied. "Then how will we play?" "Oh, it's simple. When it's time to deal, I expect them to play for me." "But what if the dead don't want to play?" asked the first inquisitively. "Well, we can't force them. They've never made gambling mandatory for the dead," the newcomer replied with a smile. After a short silence, one asked, "Are you armed? How will you fight the dead?" "Just with my fists," said the taller one. "Oh, but the dead don't gamble when there's more than one living person." "Is that so? I don't want to go," replied the taller. "Neither do I. I'm a bit short on money," said the smaller one. "Let's play a game. The loser leaves." "Okay," agreed the other reluctantly. "Let's find a place to sit. Do you have matches?" They moved to find a niche in the darkness. The smaller one took cards from his salakot while the other struck a match, illuminating their faces briefly, though they still didn't recognize each other. The tall one was Elias, and the shorter one was Lucas, who had a scar. "Cut!" called Lucas. He pushed some bones aside and dealt an ace and a jack. Elias lit match after match, placing a vertebra on the jack. "On the jack!" he declared. "Play!" Lucas said, dealing another ace. "You've lost. Now leave me alone to play." Elias silently moved into the darkness, disappearing. Minutes later, the church clock struck 8, signaling the hour of souls. Yet Lucas did not call on the dead, instead muttering a few prayers as if following a ritual. All night, the drizzle continued. By 9, the streets were eerily dark, with only small lanterns lighting up little spots around them. 2 civil guards patrolled nearby, feeling the cold. "It's freezing," said one. "We haven't caught any sacristans. Everyone's scared after that recent death." "Yeah, but Elias is in town, they say. The alferez promised a reward to whoever catches him," replied the other guard. They described Elias, sharing laughable details, and as they continued, a shadowy figure approached. They stopped him. "Who goes there?" one guard shouted. "España," the first figure answered, trembling with fear. When they examined him, they recognized Lucas, but hesitated. The alferez didn't mention anything about a scar, the Visayan guard whispered. Where are you headed? They asked. To order a mass for tomorrow, Lucas replied. Haven't you seen Elias? They prodded. I don't know him, sir, he said quickly. They pushed him away, unhappy with his responses. Do you know why Elias is described differently? One guard wondered. No, answered the other. Because the alferez was in the mud when he saw him, he laughed. But soon, another shadow caught their attention. They called out again, this time to the real Elias. Where are you going? They demanded. To find a man who threatened my brother. He's called Elias and has a scar, he said, and the guards exchanged looks of shock as they sprinted towards where Lucas had just disappeared.